Get ready with me while I talk about my least and most favorite things about 911. It's already 5:53. I woke up at 5:30 and it took me 23 minutes to wash my face and get dressed currently, so it's very cold here in Washington today. June is kind of a bad month for us. So let's start with my favorite things about 911. So my favorite thing is that nothing is ever the same. What I mean by that is that something different could happen every single day. It's not your typical 9 to 5 bank job. It's not, I've been a barista before, and it's not someone getting the same order every day. It's not making the same drinks or sweeping the same floor every day. In some ways, yes, the same things could happen every day. You're still doing the same statuses every day. You're still answering the phone every day. But it could be any combination of call types. Another thing I really like about it is how fast-paced it can be. And not just, having a bunch of calls coming in at the same time, but you could have even just one big major call and you've got a bunch of things to do for that one call. You've got to quickly add all the people involved in that call, and that means running them through Access, pulling up their drivers, pulling up any warrants, any court orders, adding them to the call. You've got to research alerts at that address and give them out to officers or EMS and fire if it relates to them. You could get a very crazy, big, huge structure fire and have to page that out in a very timely manner. And something else that I really like is that at my agency in particular, we are all cross-trained, so we all know how to dispatch for fire, EMS, and police, and we also take 911 calls. So I like that I don't always have to be working the same console every day. If I want a break from law enforcement, I can get a day of call taking and fire med in. I personally get very quickly burnt out on calls though, and fire medical. So I personally like working law enforcement more. There's just something really fun to me about doing a traffic stop and running people and checking all of their alerts and giving out that information, making sure I know exactly where all my officers are. I also love that at my particular place of work, and this goes for some 911 centers, we are allowed to, have our phones outside of training. We're allowed to read books. We can watch a TV show. Us coworkers, we can all get together and say we want to have like a buffet or just have like a party one day. I absolutely love working holidays at my center because we just make a really fun time out of it. We get food and we dress up and we can play games. I've played countless puzzles with my coworkers at work. So I guess now moving on to my least favorite things. Whoa. Using this palette from Odin's Eye today. So as with any job, there are things that are not so great. I hate storm days. I hate just the constant call after call after call after call coming in. Most of them all reporting either the same tree branch or maybe you're not sure if it's the same tree branch, so you put in a different call. And I dislike when there's just two of you and you get the initial influx of like 100 calls and you don't have time to send out a message for help because you're so busy, but you need to send out that message for help. I dislike how entitled some people can be in just the most strangest request you would ever imagine. Like demanding an officer come immediately to your home because you're having a silly neighbor dispute with your neighbor about their goats on your property. Meanwhile, I've got 2 deputies or officers for that entire area and they're all tied up on 5 other calls. With all the drug stuff can be very frustrating because you get people who overdose, you get people who are very frustrated by someone doing drugs in the apartment complex behind them, and there's nothing that really law enforcement can do because essentially here in Washington State, it's not illegal to do drugs. I've been screamed at, my coworkers, all of us, we've been screamed at, cursed at, called just the worst names you could possibly call a human being. And occasionally, unfortunately, I let it get to me. It can be a little frustrating when you are just trying to help someone and do your job. Unfortunately, people assume that we can send help immediately, Some people will live in the most rural places and be so angry and aghast that an ambulance is not right next door at their house. And then there are the people who are so angry with answering questions at all. You know, they're wondering, why are you asking questions? These questions are stupid. Just send someone now. Meanwhile, help has already been sent and the questions are not delaying the response. Unfortunately, we need to ask questions for everyone's safety and for our protocol. I think in general also just being appreciated. And I'm not talking about like being thanked. I don't need to be thanked every day by the public for doing my job. You know, there's this stigma. Some, not all people, think that, you know, dispatchers are just secretaries. We're just sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. And so it can kind of cause this divide between us and other first responders. All right, so this is the finished look and it's 6:30. I gotta go to work. I hope this answered your question and have a great day.